When Ethan Lopez heard that his first love had died after a long illness, he lost himself in grief so deep it swallowed reason. He sold everything he owned, every cent of his fortune, and donated it all in the name of her memory. Then he shaved his head, walked away from his family, and disappeared into a monastery, claiming he had renounced the world. In his delirium, he left my mother, Melissa Turner, alone with 2 children who were barely old enough to understand what was happening. He left us to wander to face hunger on the streets of Minneapolis while he chased some twisted notion of eternal devotion. But my mother did not collapse. Melissa Turner was the strongest woman I have ever known, and no betrayal, no desertion could break her. She picked up bottles and cans, scavenging recyclables just to buy food. She grilled skewers on the sidewalk, standing in the cold, with smoke burning her eyes, and saved every dime to raise me and my younger brother Ryan. Through sheer will, she not only fed us, but eventually opened her own small restaurant, Turner's BBQ Grill, in downtown Minneapolis. From there, she built a life brick by brick until she could buy us a modest but brand new townhouse in the suburbs. We had just moved into that house when the ghost of our past returned. 10 years gone, Ethan Lopez showed up again, thin, jaundiced, sick. He came back not to apologize, not to seek forgiveness, but to announce that he had cancer. He wanted us, the family he had abandoned, to pay for his treatment. I was at work when the phone rang. The caller ID showed Aunt Grace, my father's younger sister. I answered, and her voice spilled through the line, bright with laughter. "Holly, I've got good news. Your dad is back. Aren't you excited?" Her joy hit me like ice water. I froze in my chair, unable to respond. That man who had walked out on us a decade earlier, who had chosen a dead woman's memory over the living wife and children who needed him, was standing at my door. Why now, I forced myself to ask where he was. "He's right outside your house," Aunt Grace replied, as if she were telling me a surprise party was waiting. 10 years gone, and now he's home for good. We're finally going to be a family again. Hurry back, Holly. I hung up before she could say more, my hands trembling. My first thought was of my mother. Did she know Melissa had suffered so much after he left? Years of silent tears, years of clawing her way out of despair. Finally, she had rebuilt her life. I couldn't let her be crushed again. I called her. She was at the market, haggling with a vendor, her voice cheerful, light, alive. Just hearing it gave me relief. She didn't know yet. There was still time to shield her, so I lied. "Mom, tonight I'm craving crawfish. Could you buy me 2 pounds big ones if you can find them?" She laughed. "Crawfish in the season." "That's hard, sweetheart, but I'll try. Don't worry, I'll look around after I'm done here." "Thanks, Mom." "Take your time," I said, my voice steady, though my chest was in turmoil. I ended the call, left work early, grabbed a cab, and sped toward the townhouse. Sure enough, outside the gate of our neighborhood stood 2 figures. One was my Aunt Grace, plump and smiling, always quick to meddle. Beside her was Ethan Lopez. He wore rough cloth, a knit cap pulled low, his eyes locked on our house as if he owned it. Age had not been kind to him. The handsome college poet who once prided himself on literature now looked shriveled, yellowed lines carved deep across his face. And yet he carried himself with the same arrogant posture as though the world owed him reverence. I stopped a few paces away and looked at him, not with joy, not even with hate, but with a bitterness so heavy it choked me. I remembered how he used to belittle my mother, mocking her, as small-town, uneducated, unworthy of standing beside him. I remembered the sketchbooks and letters he had filled, not for her, not for us, but for the woman who had died. When that woman passed, he had sat smoking all night, clutching her picture, whispering like a madman, "Wait for me, I'm coming to you." The very next day, he sold our house, donated the proceeds, and disappeared behind monastery walls, leaving us with nothing. The press lauded him as a tragic lover, a legend, a man who sacrificed everything for romance. But while strangers praised him, my mother and I were cast out into the cold. Nobody asked how he survived. Nobody cared. And now he had returned as if nothing had happened. "Holly, there you are," Aunt Grace exclaimed when she saw me. She waved me over, beaming. "Come here, child. Don't just stand there staring. Aren't you happy? Your father's back. Ethan turned his eyes on me, and his expression soured at my silence. So you finally show up, he muttered, voice rough. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting here? I didn't answer. My voice came out like ice. Why are you here? His face darkened. What kind of manners is this? 10 years without seeing me, and you don't even call me dad. No respect at all. What did that stupid woman teach you? The insult struck me like a whip. He dared to call my mother stupid. Anger surged hot through my veins. You think you're still the king of this house, I snapped. Who are you calling stupid? Your mother, he barked back. His hand twitched and I could see him ready to strike me the way he must have imagined countless times. Only Aunt Grace grabbed his arm in time, pulling him back with a nervous laugh. Stop it, both of you, she said quickly. You're father and daughter. After all these years, is this how you want your reunion to be? But the words meant nothing to me. The man in front of me was no father. He was a stranger who had abandoned us, who had spit on my mother's devotion and left 2 children to starve. I stared at him, my fists clenched, and knew one thing for certain: I would not let him step back into our lives as if he had the right. Aunt Grace tightened her grip on Ethan's arm, flashing me a desperate look, as if her eyes alone could order me to calm down. Then she turned towards me with a forced smile. Holly, don't be like this. I know you've held so much anger all these years. You miss your father, that's why you're acting out. But can't you see? He has suffered too. He has missed your mother and both of you more than you realize. He came back this time to make it right, to give something back to the family. The laugh that tore out of me was sharp and cold. Make it right. Where was this concern for family when he sold everything we had, handed it over to a monastery, and left us in the streets to starve? Where was his fatherly devotion when Mom carried us through winters without heat and nights without food? He didn't care then, so why should we believe him now? Who would even want his version of making it right? Ethan's face twisted, his eyes burning with offense. What are you talking about? That money, that house, it was mine. I built it, I earned it. Was it not my right to decide how to use it? I was drowning in grief. My soul shattered, and you, my own daughter, couldn't even try to understand. To you, money is more important than feelings, more important than love. I stared at him, stunned at the audacity. For years, I had imagined that maybe, just maybe, he would return with a shred of remorse, an ounce of shame. But instead, he stood before me with the same arrogance, speaking these words as if they were gospel without a trace of guilt. I almost laughed from sheer disbelief, but exhaustion weighed heavier than anger. I had no more desire to argue. My voice was firm. I don't want a debate, Ethan. Leave. You are not welcome here. Aunt Grace's smile faltered, panic rising in her voice. Holly, don't talk like that. Your father means no harm. Let's just go inside, sit down, talk calmly. Don't make a scene in the street, people are watching. I've already said it. No one is setting foot in this house today. If you know what shame is, then go. Otherwise, I'll call security and have you both thrown out. Ethan's expression darkened. You dare speak to me like this? I am your father. He lunged as if to strike me, but Aunt Grace pulled him back again, shooting him frantic glances to hold him down. He clenched his fists, lips curling into a bitter sneer. Fine, fine. So many years gone, and now my own daughter turns on me like a wolf with no loyalty. I'll say no more. Let's see what your mother does when she returns. I want to see if she dares leave me outside this door. My fists tightened at my sides. He was confident, and sadly I knew why. Once upon a time, it had been my mother who chased after him, begging for his attention, enduring humiliation just to keep him. Even when he strayed, even when he disrespected her, she forgave him again and again. She had never raised her voice, never once stood her ground. That was the woman he remembered, the woman he counted on breaking again. But I would not allow it, not this time, not ever. This house is not yours to claim. I shouted, my voice echoing through the street. Get out, security, security, there are trespassers here. I snatched the broom, leaning against the wall, and swung it wildly, the bristles slapping against the pavement, against legs, against anything in reach. Out. Get out before I drive you out like dogs. The broom caught Aunt Grace across the cheek, leaving her face red and swelling. She stumbled back, cursing. Holly Bennett, how dare you? How dare you raise your hand against your own father? You'll be punished by heaven for this. My rage surged and I jabbed the broom into a pile of dog waste on the curb, then shoved it toward them, flinging the filth close to their shoes. Heaven has nothing to do with him. He is nothing to me. Get out now. At that exact moment, a voice cut through the chaos. Holly, I froze. My mother's voice. I turned and there she was at the end of the lane. Melissa Turner carrying her market bags, her eyes wide in shock at the scene unfolding before her. My stomach dropped. She was home too soon. I rushed a step between her and Ethan, desperate to shield her from his gaze, but I was too late. Their eyes met, and for the first time in 10 years, they stood face to face. Ethan faltered, wiping at his soiled face, tugging off his knit cap. Before him stood not the weary homemaker he had abandoned, but a woman transformed. Melissa was dressed in a silk blouse, her makeup light yet elegant, her presence refined. She was no longer the timid wife who once bent to his every whim. He cleared his throat and forced a smile, his voice soft and unfamiliar. Melissa, I'm back. This time I won't leave again. Panic knotted inside me. I glanced at my mother, terrified she might waver, that old wounds might bleed open. But she only smiled gently, her tone calm. Ethan, you've returned. Her composure unnerved me. I grabbed her arm, pleading. Mom, call security. Send them away now before it's too late. Instead, she scolded me softly, her words carrying that familiar note of reproach. Holly, mind your manners. No matter what, he is still your father. At those words, Aunt Grace exhaled in visible relief. For a moment, she had feared Melissa would lash out, but now she relaxed, even smiled smugly. Ethan's shoulders straightened, his confidence seeping back into his veins. The fear he carried that my mother might despise him vanished, replaced with a smirk of victory. And I, standing beside her, felt my own heart sink. Ethan's relief was almost palpable. For a moment he had worried that Melissa might slam the door in his face, but as he watched her gentle smile, he thought he saw proof that she was secretly glad he had come back. His old confidence bloomed across his worn features, the same swagger he had worn when he was younger, strutting around like a king. He even jabbed a finger toward me with a smirk of disdain. You've raised quite the mouthy daughter, he scoffed. Melissa only chuckled softly, shaking her head. Holly has always been outspoken, Ethan. Don't hold it against her, his pride stung. Ethan gave a hollow laugh. Hold it against her as if she matters. Then without shame, he reached for Melissa's hand, as though time and betrayal had vanished. Melissa, all these years. But she pulled her hand away with a delicate movement, sidestepping without drama. Instead of answering him, she turned to me, her eyes kind. Holly opened the door. Let your father come in. The words knocked the breath out of me. Mom, why? Why let him inside? Her tone turned firm. Open it. Don't make me repeat myself. Grinding my teeth, I dug the keys from my pocket and unlocked the door. Ethan straightened his shoulders and walked in without waiting for an invitation, stepping over the threshold, like he was reclaiming territory. Aunt Grace followed, her eyes darting over every detail with greedy delight. Our new house was simple and modern, designed by an architect who valued clean lines and warm light. Visitors often marveled at how elegant yet homey it felt. Ethan's eyes swept across the open living space with a nod of approval, as if the place already belonged to him. Not bad. Spacious, bright, perfect for reading. Then he smirked. But the dagger? It lacks taste. Women never get these things right. Don't worry, I'll fix it later. My jaw tightened, but I bit back the rage and carried my shopping bag straight to the kitchen. It was nearly 6 o'clock, and my mother fussed over every detail. She had mentioned once that a proper first meal in a new house must be eaten at exactly 7. Holly, come help me peel garlic, she called gently. I glanced at the two intruders lounging in our living room and muttered under my breath, why should we cook for them? Melissa's eyes flashed a warning. Holly, don't make me angry. I swallowed my protest and sat down hard at the kitchen table, smashing garlic cloves with far more force than necessary, each crack a release of fury. That was who my mother was. Too kind, too soft, too forgiving. That softness had cost her so much, and it terrified me to see her let him in again. In the living room, Ethan sprawled across the couch legs stretched out wide, claiming space. Aunt Grace linked her arm through his, marveling, "This house is gorgeous. Really perfect. Why rent a place when there's so much room here?" Ryan and I could move in and the whole family would be together again. Ethan chuckled smug. "Exactly. There's plenty of space. No reason to waste it." Aunt Grace's eyes glowed with approval, as if she were already picturing her new bedroom. Then she leaned closer to Ethan, whispering, "See, I told you Melissa wasn't truly mad. You were right." Ethan puffed up with pride, tearing open a bowl of sunflower seeds and cracking them noisily as if he had never left. After a while, his attention drifted toward the kitchen. "Melissa," he called out, "where's our son?" "Did you tell Ryan I'm here?" Melissa's voice floated back steady as ever. "He'll be home soon. He had class today. You'll see him tonight." Ethan's grin widened. "Good. That boy, he's been making me proud. A prestigious university, a research assistantship. He takes after me. Not like Holly. Thank God he isn't like her. She probably can't even add 2 and 2. The arrogance in his tone stung like acid, and for a moment I nearly stormed into the living room to confront him. But before I could, the front door opened. Ryan Ethan's voice rang out suddenly, bright and eager. He leapt off the sofa and rushed toward the door like a man greeting a long-lost treasure. "Misa, you look just like me." He grabbed Ryan in a suffocating embrace. His smile stretched so wide it looked painful. Ryan froze, stunned. Then he gently pushed Ethan back. His brow furrowed with confusion. "Dad, why are you here?" His voice cracked raw with disbelief. Ethan's expression softened into a pleading smile. "It's me, Ryan, your father. I left the monastery. I'm not going anywhere again." "Aren't you glad?" Ryan stared at him, his eyes clouded with uncertainty, the distance between them unbridgeable. Finally, he turned toward us. "Mom, Holly, what is happening?" Melissa kept her eyes on the pans sizzling on the stove, her voice calm. "Your father came back today." Ryan's gaze flicked between me and Ethan. Confusion deepened and silence pressed down on the room until Ethan broke it with a frown. "Melissa, why didn't you tell him? At least prepare the boy before dropping this on him." But my mother said nothing more, her back turned, her hands steady as she stirred the food. And I stood frozen, staring at Ryan, afraid of what his answer might be, afraid that the cracks Ethan had carved into our family would only widen from here. Ethan's smugness grew the longer he sat in our living room, convinced that Melissa's quiet smile was proof she was glad to see him again. His old arrogance returned like a shadow, and he jabbed a finger toward me with irritation. "You raised this girl well, Melissa. Look at her manners." My mother only smiled, faintly shaking her head. "Holly has always been outspoken. Don't be too hard on her." Ethan chuckled bitterly, unwilling to admit his pride was wounded. "Hard on her? She isn't worth it." Then he reached out bold as ever to take my mother's hand. Melissa all these years, but she shifted away with grace, not harsh, not obvious, just enough to deny him. Turning to me instead, she said gently, "Holly, open the door. Let your father come inside." My heart twisted. "Mom, why? Why would you let him?" Her voice hardened. "Open it. Don't make me say it again." With clenched teeth, I pulled the keys from my pocket and unlocked the door. Ethan strode in as if reclaiming territory, Aunt Grace following close behind her, eyes sparkling as she surveyed every corner. Our new townhouse was bright and spacious, designed with simple modern lines that made the space both elegant and warm. Ethan looked around, nodding like a judge approving a prize. "Not bad. Big, full of light. Perfect for reading." Then he smirked. "But the decor lacks taste. Women never get this right." "Don't worry, I'll fix it later." I ignored him, carrying groceries to the kitchen. It was almost 7, and Mom insisted our first dinner in the new house had to be served on the hour. "Holly, come peel garlic," she called. I shot a glare toward the living room. "Why should we cook for them?" Her eyes snapped to me sharp. "Don't make me angry." So I sat down hard at the kitchen table and crushed garlic cloves with more force than necessary fury, spilling into every crack. Meanwhile, Ethan stretched out across the couch legs, spread wide, claiming space. Aunt Grace leaned on him, sighing with delight. "This house is gorgeous. Why rent when there's so much room here Ryan and I could move in? Wouldn't that be wonderful, Ethan?" "The whole family under one roof." Ethan grinned. "Exactly. Plenty of rooms, no sense wasting them." Her eyes gleamed as though she already owned a share. She whispered in his ear, "I told you Melissa wasn't truly angry." "You were right," Ethan laughed, cracking sunflower seeds between his teeth like he was lord of the manor. Then he raised his voice. "Melissa, where's my son? Did you call Ryan?" "From the kitchen," my mother answered calmly. "He'll be home soon. He had classes today. He'll be here tonight." Ethan's face lit up with smug pride. "Good. That boy makes me proud. A top university. A research assistantship. He takes after me. Not like Holly. Thank God he's nothing like her. She probably can't even do simple math." The words stabbed deep, but before I could storm out, the front door opened. "Ryan!" Ethan shouted, leaping up with sudden joy. He ran to the door and threw his arms around my brother. "My son. You look just like me." His face shone with triumph as if he had just reclaimed a trophy. Ryan stiffened, then stepped back, confusion etched into his brow. "Dad, why are you here?" His voice shook. Ethan's smile softened into pleading sweetness. "It's me, Ryan. I left the monastery. I won't leave again. Aren't you happy?" Ryan's eyes narrowed with uncertainty, his silence heavier than any words. Finally, he turned toward us. "Mom, Holly, what's happening?" Melissa, her back still to us, stirred the pan of sizzling crawfish. "Your father came back today," she said evenly. Ryan blinked, then without another word walked into the kitchen. "Mom, let me cook. This dish is greasy. You'll choke on the smoke." She smiled faintly. "It's nearly done. Just take this plate out to the table." She handed him a dish, then patted my shoulder, signaling me to join him in the dining room. Dinner was laid out carefully. Ethan sat down immediately, leaning back like the master of the house. He glanced at the spread and grinned. "Melissa, your cooking is still the best. Flawless as always." Aunt Grace laughed and pulled out a chair without waiting to be invited. Ethan sprawled at the head of the table, waiting like a king to be served. Then Melissa returned from the kitchen with 3 bowls of rice. Only 3. She placed them carefully in front of me, Ryan, and herself. In front of Ethan and Aunt Grace, the table remained bare. Ethan froze, then forced a laugh. "That's fine. I'll start with vegetables. Melissa, you always remembered what I liked." His eyes sparkled when he saw the plate of buttery crawfish glistening red. He reached for it eagerly. "You even made my favorite. How thoughtful. Don't touch it." Melissa's voice cut clean across the table. She tapped his hand away with her chopsticks, her tone calm but firm. "That's Holly's favorite dish. I spent all day tracking down crawfish this big. If you eat them, what will she have?" Ethan stared at her, stunned, the hidden meaning sharp as glass. He gave an awkward laugh. Of course, they're Holly's. But Melissa, where are my chopsticks? How am I supposed to eat without them?" Melissa placed a crawfish into my bowl, her movements gentle. Then she turned to Ethan with an expression of polite surprise. "Chopsticks. But your sister just called. She said you were only stopping by to see the house. No one mentioned staying for dinner." The words landed like a slap. Ethan's face flushed red, then drained pale. He shoved his chair back with a growl. "Melissa Turner, what are you playing at? Are you trying to humiliate me?" She lifted her spoon, calm as still water. "You accuse me wrongly. I never said you'd be staying for dinner. I assumed you were just here to look at the new place and leave." For the first time in years, I looked at my mother and realized she had never intended to welcome them, never planned to feed them. This was her quiet rebellion, precise and deliberate. Aunt Grace shot to her feet, face white, then red. "Melissa, how can you do this?" They're family. You can't even offer them one meal. But Melissa's eyes turned cold. Family, years ago when Ethan left, I begged you for a place to stay. Just a few nights. Do you remember what you said, Grace? You said we were no longer family, that I should never come again. And now when things are better, you remember we're kin. Grace stammered at a loss for words. Ethan slammed his hand against the table, rage trembling through his voice. Melissa, I am your husband, the father of these children. I've come back. What more do you want? Do you want me to kneel and beg? Her eyes glistened, but her smile was faint. Do you remember that night, Ethan? The night you shaved your head and left, I did kneel. I begged you to look at our children one last time. And you told me our fate was severed, that I should consider you dead. You were right. To me, you've been dead for a long time. Ethan's pride cracked fury, rising like a storm. He shouted, Melissa, since when did you become so small-minded? If not for your begging, I would never have married you. You enjoyed years of comfort with me, and now you resent me for one mistake. Where's your conscience? He lifted his arm, his body tense as if ready to strike. In that instant, Ryan rose from his chair, his tall frame blocking Ethan like a wall. What are you trying to do? He demanded. Ethan flinched at the steel in Ryan's voice, his eyes darting with hesitation. For the first time, fear flickered beneath his anger. He muttered curses under his breath, shoved Ryan aside and stormed out of the dining room, his dignity in tatters. Fine, fine, Ethan spat, his voice trembling with rage. You've got someone to shield you now, huh? Remember this? I'm leaving, but don't regret it later. He hissed, shoved past Ryan, and stormed out the door. Aunt Grace scrambled after him, whispering frantically, Ethan, calm down. We came here for a reason. Don't ruin everything. But he was too far gone, dragging her away as fury boiled off of him. At last, the house fell quiet again. Melissa closed the door gently and turned back to us, her lips curving into a calm smile, as if she had carried no weight at all. Enough staring, she said softly. Let's eat. I reached for her hand, unable to hold my fear inside. Mom, are you okay? She shook her head lightly, her voice as gentle as water flowing over stones. I'm fine. She brushed away a single tear at the corner of her eye, then carried one bowl of rice to the windowsill. Setting it down with reverence, she whispered, The first bowl of rice in a new house must be offered to heaven. All I ask in this life is that Holly and Ryan stay healthy and safe. For a while after that night, Ethan did not come back, and peace returned to our home. Yet in my chest, I carried unease, a shadow that never lifted. To me, my father was like a time bomb. You never knew when he might explode, or how much damage he would bring when he did. Melissa carried on with her daily rhythm, smiling, cooking, checking on us, as if nothing had happened, but I could see the cracks. Sometimes late at night, I would pass the living room and catch her sitting alone, her eyes rimmed red tears slipping silently down her cheeks. If she truly no longer cared, why was she crying? I feared her strength was just armor, and that the moment she let her guard down, she would fall back into the same trap that had ruined her once before. And then it happened. Ethan came back. Likely pushed on by Aunt Grace, he tried a different tactic this time. He called my mother directly, his voice suddenly humble, and invited her to dinner at a mid-range restaurant in uptown Minneapolis. When Melissa answered the call, her mood shifted. For the rest of the day, she seemed distracted, lost in thought. I urged her not to go, and she nodded, murmuring agreement. But that evening, she dressed quietly and slipped out, leaving me behind. The restaurant Ethan chose looked polished on the surface, dim lights and leather booths, but the menu was cheap, a place meant to impress without cost. Melissa walked in to find him already there. On the table sat a half-eaten birthday cake, the kind from a supermarket freezer. Ethan was scooping spoonfuls into his mouth, but the second he saw her, he straightened, wiped his lips, and shoved the plate forward. Melissa, you're here, he said quickly. I bought this cake for you. You used to say I never bought you sweets, didn't you? Come on, try it. But half the cake was already gone, devoured by him before she arrived. Melissa set her purse on the chair and looked at the mangled frosting. After a long silence, she picked up a spoon, took one small bite, and set it down again. "Well," Ethan asked eagerly. She looked at him without expression. "Why did you ask me here?" He forced a chuckle. "The other night, I lost my temper. That was my fault. I'm sorry." Those words came out of anger. "Don't hold them against me." Melissa stayed silent, her face unreadable. Ethan's eyes flickered nervously. This was the first time he had lowered himself like this, and the humility fit him poorly. But he pressed on. "Melissa, do you remember when we first met? You were 17, always showing up just to hear me read my poems. That's right," she cut in coldly. 17, too young to know better. I wasted my time listening to you read love poems written for someone else, a woman you could never let go. What a joke. His mouth snapped shut, embarrassment flickering across his face. "Melissa, but we were happy too. Please forgive me. I've realized something now. You're the one I truly love. Give me a chance to make it up to you. The kids can't grow up without their father." Melissa's lips curved in a thin smile, but it carried no warmth. "Funny you remember the children now. Where were they in your thoughts 10 years ago? Do you know what it was like when you left? I thought I wouldn't survive. If not for Holly and Ryan, I might not have. But I did. I carried everything alone and proved I could. Without you, I still lived. Without you, I learned I could be strong." She rose, lifting her purse from the chair. "Life moves forward, Ethan. Don't waste yours chasing me anymore. Melissa, wait." He jumped to his feet and grabbed her hand, panic rising in his voice. "I don't believe you're done loving me," Ethan pleaded, gripping Melissa's wrist. "Give me one more chance. It's a chance for you too, isn't it?" Melissa yanked her hand free, but he refused to let the moment go. His pride crumbling, he reached into his coat and slapped a folded paper onto the table. His voice cracked. "I'm telling you the truth, I have cancer. If I don't get surgery soon, I don't have much time left." Melissa froze, her eyes darting to the page. It was a medical report. Suddenly, so many things made sense: the knit cap he wore in the summer heat, the way he seemed to have aged 10 years in one, cancer. Seeing her falter, Ethan forced tears into his eyes. His voice rasped, desperate. "Melissa, you would really watch me die? We were husband and wife for over a decade. The surgery isn't even expensive. $50,000, that's nothing to you?" Melissa's hands trembled as fury burned through her. Her face strained of color. "So that's it. That's why you came back. Not because you realized you were wrong. Not because you regret what you did. Just for money." Ethan's expression hardened, shame replaced with anger. "Melissa Turner, must you be so cruel? I'm not as worthless as you think." She rose from her chair, eyes blazing. "Cruel? Tell me the truth, Ethan. If you weren't sick, if you didn't need money, would you be here right now? You've never once admitted you were wrong. Every word you say about making it right is nothing but a lie." His mask cracked and he shouted loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "We were married for years. You've earned plenty since then. You can't spare a little for me. I only need $50,000. That's not asking too much. And don't forget, we're still legally married. Half of what you own is mine by law." Melissa's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Married? When you gave away every cent of our fortune to a monastery, did you think about the fact that half of it was mine too? Or did the law not matter then?" For once, Ethan had no words. He gaped at her, his mouth opening and closing in silence. It was Aunt Grace who leapt from the shadows, pointing an accusing finger at Melissa. "Melissa Turner, how heartless can you be? You're swimming in money now and won't spend a dime to save my brother. He's the father of your children. Are you really going to let him die?" She slapped her thigh and wailed dramatically, drawing the attention of nearby diners. "Look, everyone, look at this woman. She ruined my brother, threw him out, and now she lives in a mansion while he suffers from cancer with no money for treatment. What kind of monster does that?" Phones came out. Strangers began recording. Ethan lowered his head, playing the role of the tragic figure, while Aunt Grace carried on with her sob story. Melissa, however, met the spectacle with an icy stare. "Go ahead," she said coolly. "Scream all you want, record all you want. but I won't give you a dime." She picked up her purse, slung it over her shoulder, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. That night, when she returned home, her eyes were red. She sat on the couch, looked at me, and asked in a trembling voice, "Holly, do you think I was too harsh?" I grabbed her hands. "Mom, how could I blame you? You were right. If he didn't need money, would he have come back? He only wants us to take care of him." She gave a bitter smile. "You know, I still carried a shred of hope today. But when he handed me that half-eaten cake, I realized it had never been about me. It never was. Even the cake was just for show, and it tasted sickeningly sweet." I squeezed her hand. "Mom, I don't think he'll give up easily. What if he comes back again?" Her voice was calm, steady. "Then let him. I will not waver again." And she was right. The very next morning, Ethan returned with Aunt Grace at his side, banging on the gates of our neighborhood. "This is my house," he shouted. "Why won't you let me in?" The guards held them back, refusing to allow entry. But when he couldn't force his way into our home, he turned his sights elsewhere at the business my mother had spent 10 years building with her own hands. Turner's BBQ Grill in downtown Minneapolis, the restaurant that had carried us from nothing to stability, suddenly became his stage for humiliation. At first, Ethan still had some shame. He sat quietly outside Turner's BBQ Grill while Aunt Grace shouted insults, letting her do the dirty work. But soon his pride hardened into shamelessness, and together they began spreading lies, painting my mother as a cruel woman who abandoned him in his hour of need. They did it loudly in front of customers, in front of strangers, until people grew uneasy. Within days, the restaurant that had once been bustling with lines out the door turned silent. Customers avoided the drama, afraid to get caught in the storm. Melissa's pride and joy, the business she had poured 10 years of sweat into, was unraveling under the very man who once vowed to protect her. It was complicated legally on paper. She and Ethan were still married. Ryan and I had changed our last names, but the law still bound us to him as children. He knew it, and he threw it in our faces. "Melissa Turner," he shouted one afternoon, "you don't respect me as a man. I don't have to respect you as a woman. You'll never live in peace if you don't give me what I want." I wanted to scream, to drag him to court, to sever every tie forever. I even thought of rushing out and demanding we all change our names officially so he couldn't claim us anymore. But before I could, Ryan came back. He must have heard whispers at the university, because he appeared suddenly standing in our doorway. His eyes burning, Melissa gasped. "Ryan, what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be on a trip with your professor?" His voice cracked raw with emotion. "How could I stay away when my family is falling apart?" He turned on her, shaking his head. "Mom, Dad has cancer. Why didn't you tell me?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Ryan, what are you saying? Don't tell me you're taking his side," but he exploded, his voice trembling with anger. "Enough, Holly. Mom, you too, you've gone too far. Whatever he did before, he's still my father. How can you both stand by and let him die?" Tears welled in Melissa's eyes. "Ryan, do you blame me?" His lip quivered, his shoulders stiff. "Since I was a child, I've been mocked for being fatherless. I never complained, but it hurt. And now what do you want? For me to lose him forever?" Melissa's breath caught pain twisting her face, but Ryan pressed on. After a long silence, he turned toward Ethan, grabbed his hand, and said firmly, "Dad, come with me. If they won't take care of you, I will. I'll pay for your treatment. I'll be the one to look after you when you're old." Ethan blinked as if stunned by the gift he had just been handed. Then joy broke across his face. Good boy, good boy. At least my son still loves me." Melissa reached out, sobbing. "Ryan, don't go. Please don't do this." But he didn't look back. His face had gone cold, his jaw set as he led Ethan and Aunt Grace out of the house. Ryan, I cried, running after him, but nothing could stop him. I had never seen him like that before. My little brother, always gentle, always thoughtful, now willing to throw everything away for a man who had abandoned us for 10 years. Was a father really worth so much? Ryan took Ethan to Aunt Grace's house, where he spoke to her in a low, urgent voice. Aunt Grace, I'm busy with school during the day. Can you take care of Dad for me? As for his medicine, if you can cover it for now, I'll repay you as soon as I can. Grace hesitated. Money was tight for her and she knew it. But Ryan pressed his hand to his chest. Don't worry, I'll pay you back every penny with interest. Once Dad recovers, I'll make sure you're taken care of. After all, I'm Mom's only son. One day, the house, the business, the money, they'll all be mine. Who else would I take care of if not you? Those words lit her face with greedy satisfaction. She nodded quickly. Good, good. We're family. Of course I'll help. Don't worry about me. Ryan smiled faintly, relief softening his features. I knew I could count on you. From that day forward, he didn't come home. He cut us off completely, living with Ethan and Aunt Grace, choosing them over us. During the day, Ryan still went to classes, but at night he stayed at Aunt Grace's house, supposedly to take care of Ethan. In reality, his so-called care amounted to nothing. The moment he got through the door, he flopped on the couch with his phone in hand, headset on, shouting at his friends through some online game. Ethan would call from the bedroom, his voice frail, asking for a glass of water. Ryan would reply casually, yeah, sure, in a minute, without ever moving, until finally Ethan dragged himself up to get it himself. A month passed this way, and Aunt Grace's savings, drained from paying for prescriptions, were nearly gone. One night she snapped, her voice sharp with panic. Ryan, when are you going to talk to your mother about money? I can't keep covering this. Ryan didn't even lift his eyes from the glowing screen. Tomorrow, he muttered, thumbs flying. I'll do it tomorrow. She fumed silently, terrified of pushing too hard. She still clung to his promises that one day he would inherit Melissa's house, her restaurant, her money, and then surely she would benefit too. Meanwhile, Ethan's condition deteriorated. With only scraps of medication left, he grew weaker and weaker until finally he collapsed. At the hospital, after a battery of tests, the doctor shook his head grimly. It's too advanced. Surgery won't help at this stage. Ethan's face went white, the bravado draining out of him. The next morning, he couldn't even rise from bed. Within 2 days, he lost control of his body, entirely unable to hold his dignity together any longer. Ryan, too busy with his studies, couldn't stay by his side. The burden fell on Aunt Grace. She resented every moment, feeding, cleaning, changing him. Most of the time, she ignored him, only tidying up the bare minimum when Ryan came to visit, putting on a show for her nephew. One afternoon, Ethan broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he begged Ryan, please help me bathe. I can't stand this. Everyone here hates me. Ryan didn't even glance up from his phone. Dad, I'm busy. Ask Aunt Grace. She's here all the time. Ethan's voice cracked with despair. She doesn't care. She won't do it. Ryan gave a distracted laugh, his eyes still on the glowing screen. Come on, Dad. She's taking care of you every single day. You should appreciate her. Don't be so unfair. Ethan beat his chest with a trembling fist, sobbing. All my life I guarded my pride, and now at the end, I have nothing. Nothing. Ryan didn't flinch. He kept playing headset on as if he hadn't heard a word. 2 months later, Ethan died. At the funeral, while people milled around in hushed voices, Aunt Grace cornered Ryan, pulling him aside. Her face was flushed with anger and desperation. Ryan, didn't you promise me? You said if I took care of your father, you'd reward me. I scrubbed him, fed him, put up with everything. Now what? Ryan smiled brightly, slinging his backpack off his shoulder. From it, he pulled out a bouquet of cheap supermarket flowers and pressed it into her hands. Thank you, Aunt Grace, for everything you did. Without you, I don't know how I would have managed. I hope you like these. She froze, staring at the flowers, as if they were an insult carved in stone. Flowers. That's it, after all I did. Are you mocking me? Ryan blinked innocently. What's wrong? Don't you like them? You always told me family should help each other without expecting anything in return. My dad was your brother, wasn't he? Taking care of him was only natural. Her hands shook violently, the bouquet slipping from her grasp. You dare throw my words back at me after everything you promised me, Ryan. You can't just walk away. Ryan tilted his head, his smile turning sharp. Promised. Do you have proof? Paper, ink, anything? Words are just words. Anyone can say them. Her face went pale as the truth sank in. She had nothing. Ryan leaned closer, his eyes cold now. Did you really think I forgot that night years ago when Mom came to your door with Holly and me begging you to let us stay one night? You told her, even if you freeze to death on the street, it's not my problem. If your own husband doesn't want you, why should I? You thought I was too young to remember, but I did. Aunt Grace staggered back, trembling, her lips forming his name in horror. Ryan, you? But he only gave a soft, chilling laugh, turned and walked away, leaving her clutching the fallen flowers at her feet. Ryan Lopez, Aunt Grace gasped, her voice trembling as if struck. Sorry, he muttered coldly, kicking the wilted flowers at her feet. The name's Bennett. Then he turned and walked away without a glance back. That night, rain fell softly over Minneapolis. Ryan returned home, his hair plastered to his forehead, his clothes soaked through. He stood silently at the doorway, his throat tight, his voice breaking when he finally spoke. Mom? Holly? Melissa rushed forward and pulled him inside, wrapping a towel around his shoulders. He looked at her, then at me, his eyes red with shame, before lowering his head. I'm sorry. That day, I didn't mean to hurt you both. I only wanted to stop them from making a scene. I thought if I took Dad away, they would leave us alone. I didn't want them to ruin everything you worked so hard for. Melissa hugged him tightly, tears filling her eyes. My foolish boy, you don't need to carry that kind of burden. If he causes trouble, I'll deal with it. Even if I lose the restaurant, even if I have to close the doors, it's still better than losing you. Ryan shook his head fiercely. No, Mom. Turner's BBQ Grill is your life's work. Every skewer, every plate, it was built with your sweat and Holly's too. I won't let him destroy it. Melissa stroked his hair, whispering through tears. My silly, precious son. From the day Ryan came home, Aunt Grace seemed to unravel. She barged into our house screaming that she had paid Ethan's medical bills, demanding repayment. When we refused, she marched to the police station, but without a single receipt or contract. Her claims collapsed. Furious, she wailed and cursed until her own son dragged her out, red with embarrassment. At first, Melissa wanted to show mercy, to repay her quietly, just to keep peace. But Aunt Grace chose her own downfall. One afternoon, when we were out, she broke into the house and stole every piece of jewelry my mother owned. The theft was too large to cover up. She was arrested, tried, and finally sentenced to prison. Though the restaurant had suffered from their slander, something unexpected happened. The truth came out. Ethan Lopez, once praised in the media as the man who gave up his fortune for a tragic love story, was revealed as nothing more than a selfish deserter who abandoned his family. The internet roared with judgment. Serves him right, people wrote. If not for Melissa Turner's strength, those kids would have starved. She deserves respect. I ate at Turner's BBQ Grill last night, another comment read. It's amazing. Everyone should go support her. Word spread like wildfire. Crowds lined up outside our doors, not just for the food, but for the story of resilience. Soon the first branch opened, then a second, then a third. Business flourished beyond what we had ever dreamed. Ryan wrote a heartfelt post online describing the years of struggle and my mother's sacrifices. It went viral, shared across platforms, sparking waves of admiration. As for me, I earned a promotion at work, finally stepping into a new chapter of my own life. We had endured storms that should have shattered us, but somehow each trial had shaped us into something stronger. Now, as the sun rose over Minneapolis, our family stood together, facing a brighter future that we had carved out with our own hands. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos.